I spoke to Donald Trump about this. He said that this audience is the biggest audience in the history of audiences.
Well, see, this
That's
is
what
going
he
to
said. He said 1.7 billion people were watching this show. Wait. Somebody just went to the bathroom. Now it's 1.6 billion.
All right, guys, check this out. I have a great show lined up for you. It's someone say he's a real fighter for the people. He's definitely outspoken. He's controversial. He's no holds barred. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, meet my friend and yours, Alan Grayson.
No holds barred. I'm going to put that on my tombstone, my friend. No holds barred.
Well, I know how to bring a guy out, man. I bring my guest out, man, and make sure they get to shine. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing fine. No pain.
That's it, man. You are always up to something, brother. You are always riling up people and getting people excited and getting people upset. I love your style. Alan, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I am running for Congress, running for my old seat in Congress, because nothing has changed, really. The only difference is that I was out of office for 2 years, but the Republican health care plan is still don't get sick, and still, if you do get sick, die quickly.
Wow. Die quickly, huh? Hurry up and die. That's a horrible concept, man. I don't know why I have no idea why they support that this hacking, the machete that they take to healthcare and other social programs. What do you think, Alan?
We got fair warning here in Florida when we elected a Republican governor, and he shut down every public health clinic in the entire state so he wouldn't compete with his own business.
Well, that sounds bad. That sounds like Chicago politics, or I don't know, Philly politics. From what I hear, that sounds pretty sinister.
Well, it's what happened. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but before then, there was a waiting list for the CHIP program, the Children's Health Insurance Program, Kid Care in Florida. There were 100,000 kids on that waiting list. The Republicans came with a solution. They eliminated the waiting list. God. That is a fact.
So the way to get rid of the backlog was to knock children off the program.
That's right. You got it.
Then they wonder why we have pissed off voters. We have people not tuning in and tuning out to politics when you got stuff like that going on, Alan.
If you're not pissed off, you're just not paying attention.
Absolutely. So you're who? I was reading here about the person, Darren Soto. Did he came in behind you? He took your seat after you left.
I tried to get the promotion, and you know how that works. Sometimes you get the promotion, sometimes you don't. I ran for Senate and I lost, and meanwhile he slipped in. He's a Nevish. You know what a Nevish is?
No, it
kind
sounds
of like Woody Allen without the comedy.
Woody Allen without the comedy. A schlep. Yeah. But Woody's just playing that character, so you're saying he's actually that, because Woody's like really in character actor mode, but.
Well, listen, it doesn't matter. The race is never about the other guy. It's always about what you're going to do for the people. And I feel good about that. I passed more legislation than any other member of Congress. And frankly, 435 of us, only one person could be number one, and that was me. I brought a VA hospital to Orlando. I got us an extension of public transportation and doubled it. So I'm feeling good about this. I don't see his hospital. I don't see his Sunrail. I don't see anything from him, really.
Yeah, he's just a guy who's in the office at the moment.
He just wants that $14,000 a month paycheck and those 15 staffers. That's what it's all about for him.
Oh,
and the $2,000 campaign dinners that he gets to enjoy. $2,000 for a dinner. I mean, what did they have? I mean, are there bottles of wine that actually cost that much? I don't know.
Well, man, Alan, you sound a lot like a lot of the people that I encounter on Twitter who are tired of the way politics is being run currently. You must not be too welcome in like the establishment circles when you talk like this.
Well, no, but I'll tell you, they respect me for getting good things done. Slate Magazine said I was the most effective member of Congress. Business Insider said I was the most productive member of Congress. And that's not exactly a friendly audience for a liberal Democrat like me. And Time magazine said I was a standout congressman in a do-nothing Congress, and they were right on both accounts.
I'll be honest, you hit my radar back in 2016. You were saying things that I thought needed to be said, and I was really looking for you to do more. In fact, I signed up for your mailing list. I just like your straight type of talk, and you know, take no prisoners, and that's why I said no holds barred. But you say that there are Democrats who we call corporatocrats who somehow they like what you do, huh?
They have control of the party right now. They financed my opponent. They financed my opponent in the Senate race. For them, it's all about money and about selling your vote card to the highest bidder. That's what they do. They carve up the law into little pieces, you put it up to auction, and they sell it to the highest bidder. That's a combination of capitalism and democracy that we've had to learn to live with for the past few years until we decide to change it.
Yeah, I'm. When you say sold to the highest bidder, I was just thinking about Blagojevich. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Who Donald Trump? There you go. Thank you. Who Donald Trump is supposed to pardon. I don't know if that happened yet, but I remember a couple of days ago I covered it. It was in the works. What are your thoughts about that? That's right up the same alley.
I think he's getting ready to pardon Miss O'Leary, whose cow kicked over the lantern and set fire to Chicago. I think if he pardons every single person who's ever been convicted of a crime, he feels like it's going to be okay for him to pardon himself.
And you know what? That's exactly what I've been hearing. As someone sent me something to cover. I'll probably get to it after our show. That he did kind of float that idea that he would be legally able to do so, but just because it's legally.
A woman just bumped into him a couple of nights ago, and she said, "Pardon me," and he said, "Okay, I will."
God. Yeah, he will. But we all know what the Republicans would say if Obama was in office and he talked about having the ability to pardon himself if he was brought up on charges.
No, look, I mean, all the limits, all the equivalencies are out the window. I mean, I made that much clear when I was in Congress. I gave a speech because I was annoyed at the way the Republicans were incessantly attacking Barack Obama. And I said, that on the floor of the House, I said that if Barack Obama wants a BLT, they will try to ban bacon. They attacked him relentlessly for 8 years, and now we've got somebody who actually deserves it, and all they do there is they ignore the public's outrage.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, was there ever an instance that you were critical of Barack Obama while he was in office?
Well, I'm not critical, but we have major differences, and it's interesting how it worked out. I thought that his plan to attack Syria was ill-conceived. I went on national TV 7 times in one day, did 40 media interviews in 3 days, and explained that attacking Syria would not make the situation better. It would actually make it worse. And I was right. I mean, if we had attacked Syria at that time, ISIS would have ended up with chemical weapons. So I won that dispute between the two of us. I also was completely opposed to the trade giveaways and the corporate handouts in the trade deals that he was negotiating and blocked those as well. We did not actually get the TPP instituted while Barack Obama was president. He wanted it. I didn't want it. And he also put in his budget a Social Security benefit cut that I was completely opposed to. I wrote out in my hand, we call the No Cuts petition, circulated it, 3 million people signed it, and then I handed it to him. And I also handed it to John Boehner just to make sure I had my bases covered. And in the following budget, lo and behold, that cut was out. So we had our differences.
Wow, yeah, that's definitely something that the people spoke about during 2016 was those appearances. I think that's what hit that radar. In all fairness, Alan, I'm looking at what they were saying about you and, hedge fund operations or whatever. And I heard, and also read that, you beat, that was ruled to be, insufficient. They didn't have evidence for that. What's your take on how that went down? Was that a sort of like a hit job? Was that something they planned because of you being outspoken like you are?
Classic inside the Beltway smear. That complaint was filed by Patrick Murphy's Democratic county chairman. And when it finally worked its way through the system after all of the press releases that they put out, all the tweets that Murphy's campaign manager put out on that as we were going along, they found out that there was nothing to investigate, literally nothing to investigate. When it reached the Committee on Ethics, which actually decides these things, they looked it over and they said, we're not going to inform an investigative committee. We're not going to inform an investigative subcommittee. We're just dismissing it, which is what they did.
Right. Exactly what I was reading. But the thing is, once they tarnish your name like that, we got these the people who don't always tune in. They have jobs, they have children, they have aging parents, they have trying to keep the roof over head, feed the doggy. They may not always get the message. Once that barn, once the horses left the barn, so to speak, and that damage is already done to your reputation. How are you bouncing back after that unfounded smear, whatever that was?
Well, the voters are just not fooled. I mean, the voters understand everything that I accomplished in Central Florida in my district when I was in Congress, and they already know that. They know that there's always efforts to distract people. And, the old saying from the 1800s is that lies are heard around the world before the truth ever gets its boots on. But all you have to do is just drive around Orlando, and you'll see roads that I had built, hospitals that I funded, trains that run because of the funding I got for those trains. And that's something you can't fake. People understand the good that I did, and they realize that politics is an ugly, ugly game where people's reputations are destroyed for sport. But in the end, what matters is what good you can do for people. And I did a lot of good, and I'm going to do a lot more good when I get back in.
That's so refreshing to hear it, and also the reality, what you just said is spot on, brother. The fact that you can point to what you've done for the people of Florida, and they can be the judge based on that, and that's probably why when Brooke contacted me, she was like, "We need to get back out here and talk to the people because we have a warm reception from the people of Florida."
Let me ask you something. Do you happen to itemize your taxes when you file your tax return?
I do now. Yes, yeah.
Well, you owe me, because every single person in Florida who itemizes his taxes gets a Grayson tax deduction that's enjoyed in only 7 states. Wow. And you go ahead and you try to convince people from the other 43 states to give that kind of deduction, but I did, and therefore we have an extra $1 billion a year, billion with a B, here in Florida. Now, whether or not you itemize your taxes, that works out to $50 for every man, woman, and child in the state every single year because of me.
Well, yeah, that's something you can put in your pocket. And definitely, I mean, as hard as times are nowadays, definitely. In this economy, we just saw that Bernie Sanders was talking about income inequality, fighting for workers' rights out there in Disneyland, of all places. So, I mean, the entire country is being hit with, lower wages and higher demands on that time. What about the state of Florida?
I saw at the pump yesterday that gas is now over $3 a gallon in Florida. I'm sure in California it's over $4 a gallon now.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right outside D.C., Alan. That's the same thing here in Maryland. I thought we would get lower gas prices, Alan, with Trump, with Syria, with what he's been doing. Didn't he run on lowering our gas prices and making all right with the world?
Well, that's a funny thing. I remember way back when we saw President W kiss a Saudi prince, and I knew that we were going to have to pay big time for that kiss. And what I said at the time was, if he lets him get to second base, maybe we'll see $5 a gallon of gasoline prices. And I don't want to think that third base or home plate. Don't want to think about that. But it's been that way for a long time. Oil and gas controls our international foreign affairs politics. Wall Street controls our economic politics. And that's the way it goes. So it has always been. The military-industrial complex has been in control of our military policies since the 50s, since before I was born. And again, the question is always the same. How long are people going to take this?
You know, I've had a couple of candidates on here from Florida, and they tell me a lot about Big Sugar, and they tell me about the aquifers and other issues that concern specifically Floridians. What are some of the issues that you see over the horizon that Mr. Soto isn't paying enough attention to?
Well, it's funny that you mention that. My opponent's second biggest contributor is the American Crystal Sugar Company and their PAC. Yeah. In fact, he gets 60% of all his contributions from PACs. Now, you know, it's a funny thing. Money can't vote, but what money can do is try to fool the voters. And that's what you see for somebody like that. He's the classic career politician. He sells his voting card to the highest bidder, whether it's that particular interest or any others. But you go down the list and you see a who's who of corporate America trying to buy that voting card. He actually held a fundraiser here this week in Orlando, and fewer than 10 human beings showed up because he has a severe shortage of support among human beings. If you have a corporate charter, then you love Darren Soto. But if you're a human being, you've got to pay the rent or the mortgage every month, got to pay the electrical bill every month, then you're not so hot on Darren Soto these days.
There's someone else in Florida who, I'm just going to throw this out there. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a very powerful, well-accomplished server of the people. But they're saying similar things about Debbie Wasserman. Have you worked with her in Florida politics?
Yeah, she already endorsed my opponent.
Okay.
You know, I'll tell you something interesting. This will harken back to what happened to Bernie Sanders and his supporters a couple of years ago. The chairman of the Democratic Party came to Orlando, sat right next to my opponent, and said with a straight face, the Democratic Party does not do endorsements in contested primaries, as he was sitting next to him. I mean, you know, in 2016, it was even worse. The Democratic Party spent $1 million of party money in the primary to defeat him. You know, God bless Bernie. At least he didn't have to put up with that.
Wow. Yeah, we held our nose and watched their unity tour with Bernie Sanders and Tom Perez and Keith Ellison are taking up the rear on sax. And we were thinking similar things like we don't really believe it. And you're absolutely right. He came right out and he put his thumb on the scale in New York City, which is, by the way, folks, Alan Grayson's hometown, New York.
That's right. I'm from the Bronx.
From the Bronx. So,
near Sotomayor's old building. I grew up in public housing just like she did.
Wow. You know, I think that for the most part, the fact that Debbie Wasserman has endorsed your opponent, I think we're kind of done here. We could almost pack it up because that's pretty. I'm being serious. Tim Canova sleeps here. No, he's been here a lot of times. I don't know, Alan. What do you say now? I've noticed that you were very critical of Trumpster often, and you're looking for an impeachment.
Yeah,
it's like impeach.
First chance I get, second, third, fourth, and fifth chance I get. We're going to put up as many votes on impeachment as we have seen the Republicans put up on repealing health care. I think they got up to 63. Okay, I think that's my goal. We're going to have as many votes on impeachment of Donald Trump as we had on repealing health care.
And are you? And what's the basis for it, Alan? Is this the Russia thing, or do you have something more tangible that we can look to? The emoluments clause, or what is it?
Emoluments. Now, listen, I think, again, anybody who's paying attention saw that these were crimes that were committed in broad daylight. Of course there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Of course. Why else would Trump's son and son-in-law make contact with the Russians and go over to the ambassador's office and say they wanted to create a back channel to the Kremlin that the FBI and the CIA couldn't track? What were they doing? Why did they need a back channel? Isn't it obvious? And as for the obstruction, well, I mean, Trump himself said on national TV that he fired Comey because of this Russia thing. And after he fired Comey, the next day he went with the Russian ambassador and explained that that's why he fired Comey, while he was handing the Russian ambassador top secret information in the Oval Office. I mean, if you wrote a novel that said some of this stuff, people would say, that's ridiculous. That could never happen. And yet it's already happened. We all saw it. And these are grounds for impeachment. This is beyond the normal standard, high crimes and misdemeanors. This is a blatant abuse of power and an offense against democracy itself. Trump is always talking about fake news. What about the fake election he conducted?
Wow. Well, you know, no. You know, I'm not sure if I'm convinced about that he worked with the Russians. I'm not sure if I'm convinced about that, just because I don't think the evidence is clearly laid out that that's what was going on. Because we can infer that they were sparking some type of allegiance, but to what end? I don't. What did the Russians do to get Trump elected? And don't say Facebook ads, Alan.
Already, here's what we know publicly already. Okay. The Russians stole 20,000 Democratic Party emails and leaked them through WikiLeaks. I don't think anybody really doubts that at this point. And in addition to that, they ran a social media campaign for the benefit of Trump, using foreign money, which is illegal in the United States to do. This wasn't some kind of Koch brothers operation. This was a foreign government that was running millions upon millions of ads on Facebook, established thousands of pages, make it look like there was some kind of grassroots movement for Trump. And in an election that's this close, of course it had a decisive effect. A lot of things would have had a decisive effect. But if you're talking about the fact that they were able to dump 20,000 Democratic Party emails into the public's eye at exactly the time when Trump was taking heat over the Access Hollywood tape, sure, I think it's safe to say that 100,000 or more votes swung in Trump's direction because of that. And that was the deciding factor. He won by 100,000 votes in 3 states.
But Alan, they haven't actually proven that the Russians gave those emails to WikiLeaks.
Well, I think that, again, we're somewhat constrained by what's been public. But remember that all the different intelligence agencies said that they did come from the Russians. I don't picture the CIA lying about this kind of thing for the benefit of whom? I mean, you think that the CIA would be in the bag for Hillary after she lost? After the election, that all the intelligence agencies said it was the Russians. And at this point, we're running out of other options. I mean, there's nobody who's stepped forward or even been identified who would have had the resources and talent to pull this off other than the Russians. Who else would it have been?
Oh, you mean to actually hack the DNC service, the Podesta emails?
Right, and then flood it out through what's called a cutout, somebody like WikiLeaks who you're using so that you don't have to actually release the information publicly and let people know it was you.
Well, you know, a lot of people believe that was something more so was a leak as opposed to a hack of those documents, and the 17 original security agencies that quickly turned to 3. And, So there's doubt about that. But like Alan, I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat nor Republican. If there can be proven evidence that's impeachable for Donald Trump, I carry no water for him. Bye. And I would say that to any president who can be found guilty of war crimes or anything that is impeachable offense.
I don't picture anybody accusing you of being a Trump supporter.
No. Well, you have to say that whenever, because, Alan, you know how the media is. They fixate on Donald Trump. Just as you talk about the Facebook ads and the WikiLeaks, I think about all of the publicity Donald Trump received, and over $1 billion of free, what they call earned media, which really I think is what catapulted Donald Trump. He was already a celebrity, and they made him damn near a god. They cut away from Bernie Sanders giving a speech to an empty podium of Donald Trump. And now they go, oh, my God, it was the Russians. But I think it was more so the media and the free publicity. I mean, they gave Trump what is it, 5 times, 10 times more publicity than Hillary? I don't know, maybe 50 times more than Bernie Sanders. It was ridiculous.
I agree with all of that. That much is certainly true. And it's because Trump was a freak show. It was the Trumpster fire during the entire election campaign. He embarrassed himself day by day, but he won the Republican nomination on the basis of name recognition. I mean, who the hell knows who Ted Cruz is? Honestly, does anybody outside the Beltway even recognize that name? So he won the Republican nomination on the basis of, I know that guy. I don't know these other 17 people. I guess it was 14 after Governor Christie ate 3 of them. But in any event, it was name recognition that won the primary for him. And then in the general election, it was this relentless attack on Hillary Clinton, which I will say, even though I voted, I was the only member of Congress in Florida who actually voted for Bernie at the convention. So my loyalties, I think, are clear. But I will tell you that she was so unfairly attacked. The business, for instance, about the attacks over the ambassador in Libya dying, they were absurd. I read every classified document relating to the Benghazi attacks, every single one. She was utterly not to blame for that situation. And yet for 2 years, the Republicans attacked her relentlessly over that. And with regard to her having an email server when she was Secretary of State that wasn't a government email server, how is that different or somehow worse than Donald Trump continuing to use an unsecured phone, which means that virtually every conversation he has is being picked up by anybody who's got a listening post anywhere in Washington, D.C. That's the current technology. So, I mean, she was attacked so unfairly in the general election in general. But I think that the collaboration with the Russians had a point to it. I mean, in order to think that the Russians were ineffective, you'd have to believe that the Russians are not good at this sort of thing, when in fact, they're amazingly good at this sort of thing.
And I hear you. I'm not saying there was no impact, but I looked at the report Rosenstein that he presented, and even in his writing, his findings, he said he don't think that anything the Russians did, impacted our elections. But I will say that those Facebook ads that ran, the Facebook advertising director stated that a lot of those ads ran before the election. Some ran after the election. They were more so what they call, I don't understand this term, but they say discord. Like they wanted to wreak havoc. There were some negative Hillary ads, but negative Trump ads, negative Bernie ads, negative Jill Stein ads, gaslighting of Black Lives Matter issues, gaslighting of environmental issues. They just threw everything against the wall to make us, as Jimmy Dore would say, freak out.
So I'm going to interview you for a minute, okay?
Okay.
If you wanted to give this president a grade, like he was doing some kind of course in school, what grade would you give this president?
Man, I'd give him an F. I got a lot of reasons, but they're not Russia though. There are others. What'd you say, Alan?
Give me your top 3 reasons. Why does he deserve an F? And by the way, I agree with you completely. He's the worst president of my lifetime. I can't say whether or not he's worse than Garfield
Wow.
or Buchanan, because that was before my time. But I will tell you that since 1958, he's the worst president. Now, you tell me why you think that he deserves an out.
I think for hiring Ben Carson, for hiring someone who had the audacity, the temerity to cut housing, to triple the cost of low income housing for low income individuals. That's why they're low income. Oh, let's raise it 3 by 3. To install someone in education who has no education, who doesn't understand education and wants to make a payday for her friends in the private school industry. Immigration, the wall, I think it's a waste of time.
Wait, stop right there. Stop right there. You're talking about Betsy DeVos, who maxed out to my Democratic opponent. Can you believe that? Betsy DeVos maxed out to my Democratic opponent. He was the only Democrat to get money from the DeVos family in the last election cycle. They maxed out to him 3 times.
Wow.
Now, you talk about Ben Carson. There was a writer called Anatole France. Anatole France wrote that the law in its majesty allows both the rich and the poor to sleep under bridges. And that's something that Ben Carson certainly would understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk immigration, because Florida, that's a hot seat for immigration. I think that a lot of people in Florida are concerned about various issues concerning, travel. I'm against the wall. I think it's a waste of money. I don't think he's going to get Mexico to pay for it. And now he's discovering that tariffs can be implemented by any country. Can implement a tariff if they like. What's your take on this immigration reform aspects of Donald Trump?
Well, I voted for the DREAM Act, and we have 80,000 people in my district who are undocumented. And we spent an enormous amount of time helping those people, even though there's not a single vote among them, because we understand that everybody deserves a fair shake. I had an 8-year-old girl walk up to me at a public event that I was doing in a parking lot outside of a supermarket. And she smiled and handed me a letter and said to me, "Would you please look at this when you have time?" And I said, "Sure." And then after the event, I looked at it, and I found that she was telling me that her father was about to be deported and she was going to miss him. So we checked into it. We were able to keep him around for a little while longer. But in the end, he had to go. And that family got broken up. And you ask yourself, why? I mean, I'm not an American by choice. I'm an American by birth. I was born here. Now, who is it who actually deserves the pat on the back? People who are lucky enough to be born here, or people who love this country enough to want to be here and make themselves Americans? I think that that's an enormously complimentary thing for all of us. That people want to come here, they want to make their lives here. And that it would be a harsh thing to turn your heart away from somebody like that. That's how I look at it.
What would you say, Alan, to those people who think that it's a dog eat dog world? We have a lot of unemployment in this country. We know, even though they put the highest or the lowest amount of unemployment rate in years, particularly for the Black community and for the Latino community, they say like 30 years for them. They're concerned that the immigration it hurts these workers. It hurts unskilled labor or low skilled labor. What would be your response to them about the outlook and why you feel the way you feel?
It's a classic Trump strategy to try to pit people against each other. What really is the evidence of that? Donald Trump himself must understand that immigrants do the work that other people won't do because he married 2 of them. They're doing the work that other people won't do. Sometimes you have to sign these things with your heart. I didn't want that little girl to lose her father.
Right.
I just didn't. I'm not saying that I gave it a great deal of rational analysis. It seemed wrong to me.
Yeah, and I my heart goes out as well. I don't think anyone with a conscience wants to see families split up, and separate children from their parents. Or there's been a recent story about 1,500 children missing, and I did some research on that a couple of weeks ago, and found out that number is kind of it's not actually 1,500. We don't really know. They don't track where the children go, but it's still very concerning for most people with a conscience that we have these issues and the children are warehoused this way.
Or not. Nobody, as you said, nobody really knows if they're warehoused or they're just lost or they're wandering around and forming the kind of gangs that people wrote about in London 200 years ago.
Wow,
that's what it's come to.
Yeah, they say they released the children to family members or guardians and I don't know, Alan. What are some other issues? I got current stuff I could ask you about. I could ask you what you think about racists on Twitter. I could ask you about where you think the line is now for political correctness as far as statements people make and it's costing their jobs. I guess I will ask you, what do you think about that stuff?
Tell me again.
What do you think about the recent? There's been a lot of dust up. Do you think that racism has become more increased under Donald Trump, or is this something that always existed, but now we got social media, we got smartphones, and you can see it more now?
I think it's been validated more, legitimated more under Trump when it's completely illegitimate. I think we were reaching a point in this country where at least the racists were ashamed to be racist. I think that's where we were under President Obama. And now, of course, with Trump in charge, many of them are proud to be racists. We have taken enormous steps backward. The Tea Party, I think, pushed us a great deal in that direction. The Tea Party, I took a lot of heat for saying that the Tea Party was the modern version of the Ku Klux Klan. You think about it and you realize that there's a lot of truth to that. And all those people ended up being Trump supporters. And all those Trump supporters ended up putting in power a man who sees a lot of good among neo-Nazis. The country suddenly has lost any sense that the people in charge understand or do the right thing. You remember what happened when there was a confrontation between a black professor at Harvard and a police officer?
Yes. We
had a president who invited both of them to come to the White House, talk it over. What would Donald Trump do today? He'd probably suggest that the black law professor lose his professorship and be expelled from the country and sent back to Kenya where he was born, even though he wasn't born in Kenya. The country has lost its way because the leaders have lost their way, and that's a shame. That's a crying shame. We had a great deal of progress toward the concept that, as the president said from time to time, the great thing about America is that you can be all you can be, no matter where you're from, no matter what you look like, no matter what language you speak, and no matter who you love. And I have my occasional disagreements with the president, but he was certainly right about that. That is actually the American dream, to be all you can be without being chained by poverty or racism or discrimination or sexism or hunger or poor health or any of the other things that really don't belong in our lives and hold us back. So he was right about that. And now we have somebody in charge who just likes to grab pussies.
Wow. Alan Grayson, I think that you definitely are someone that we need to hear more from. Is there something you'd like to say? I know we have a limited amount of time with you tonight, but I want to thank you for giving me that time. Is there something you'd like to say in closing about your candidacy and about what's happening in Florida?
Yes. I want you to go to the window, open it, lean out, and shout out, "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore." And then I want you to go to the website, the Modest Man website, congressmanwithguts.com. You're never going to be able to forget that now. congressmanwithguts.com. And I want you to support our campaign. Whether you volunteer, whether you make a contribution, whether you could provide your email address so that we can create this growing community, whatever it might be. Alan's Army, think of it that way. Whatever it might be, I want your help. I need your help because the forces arrayed against us are incredibly strong, and we can't afford to lose. The government you save might be your own. The life you save might be your own. The family you save might be your own. So, come to our website, congressmanwithguts.com. Sign up. You've been drafted.
Wow. Give it up for Alan Grayson, everybody. Man, I'm telling you, Alan, man, I want to say thank you so much for your time once again, brother. You are, look, I'm sure there'll be some people that disagree with some things that were said tonight, but I got to tell you, man, there are very few people that have been on this show more outspoken, more solidly believe what they believe, and willing to banter back and forth on the issues and still make you smile. Boy, Alan, thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for carrying the torch of truth.
You got it, brother. You know it, guys. Look, in closing, guys, don't forget to go to congresswithguts.com. That's congresswithguts.com. Alan Grayson needs your help. Your government needs your help. Your country as well. I see you on the next one. And as always, this show is brought to you by none other than justinformed.com. Justinformed.com, a social media site that doesn't track you. It's run by independent media, not big corporations. We love you, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good night.